Welcome back to the Cube Studies, one-point perspective. Today we are going to be working on exercise 3, projecting heights as a proportion of width. So here we're going to have small formulas that we're going to have to work out, but still use the principles that we either are drawing vertical lines, horizontal lines, or lines that go back to the vanishing point. So our worksheet is, as we're going to need our handy dandy measuring device, and let's do this first bottom one. So this one says H equals W, height equals width. So we don't know the height, so we want to add, we find the front face, we identify the front face, and that's always the largest line. So in this case, we are going to measure the width of our footprint, and that is going to equal, we turn our measuring device, and that's going to equal the height. So now we can draw a vertical line to that point, a horizontal line, which will be the top of our shape, and then another vertical line from the front corner of the footprint. Draw that up to the intersection point. So that is my formula. The height is equal to the width. From there is our front face. So for now, we can go ahead and draw vanishing back to the vanishing point from each of the corners of the front face. Drawing them all back to the vanishing point. All right, so now we go back to our footprint. So this was the front of our object. This is the back of our object. So from the back of our object, we're going to come vertical until we cross our line that runs back to the vanishing point. Then horizontal. And then that should match up to the back corner of our footprint with a vertical line. So that is our object. So the shape of our object we're going to draw with our flare pen. The visual elements of our object. The hidden elements of our object we are going to go ahead and do with our 0.5 pen as a dashed line. And just pull it a little bit off of the footprint since we can't erase that line. Just going to draw it just a little bit bigger. But that way we know what lines we can see and what lines we can't see. So now let's try this footprint right here, and our formula is the height is equal to 3 widths. So I'm going to go ahead and measure. Again, the front face is always the longest side, and I can measure that. And so now I'm going to do 3 of those widths. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So as our plan states, we do a horizontal line that is 3 times the width. Then we do our horizontal for the top. Did I say horizontal? I meant the vertical. And then going back to the front face, I draw another vertical line. And that now is the front face of this object. So just like all of our cubes, we go from the corners of the front face back to the vanishing point. Now, in this particular case, we have an object that is above and below our horizon line. So this would be similar to those cubes that we did on the last assignment, where we had to draw a cube that was staggered between both below the horizon line and above the horizon line. So let's go ahead and outline our shape here. Come straight up, and this is very, very thin on this side. Now our front face. Oops, a little wobbly there. Wobbly is just fine. So that is our visual shape, the sides that we can actually see. The other sides will be our hidden surfaces, and we'll dash those in with our 0.05 pin. So we know that objects that span both below the horizon line and above the horizon line, we cannot see the bottom or the top. And remember too, if you've drawn your pencil lines in a little bit too heavy, you can erase those, that's not a problem. But this is a very tall, thin object. Let's go ahead and try this object here. This is, again, an equal one, so our height and our width equal one another. So I can come over here and I can draw my height. So we're drawing our front face. Always draw that front face first. Now this object that we're drawing now is below the horizon line, so we will be able to see the top of this particular object. So that's our front face, and it goes back to the horizon line, and back to the horizon line, and the bottom corner back to the horizon line and the vanishing point, and the horizon line and the vanishing point. Now, in this particular case, we have objects that overlap one another. When we have objects that overlap one another, anything that's back, bring that up to the top, then the horizontal line that connects them, and our baseline. So the object that we see So this is the shape of that bottom center cube where we could see the top, but not the bottom, and everything else is hidden lines. Now if we were drawing, let's just say furniture, and this happened, what we would do is all the objects that are behind, so this tall, thin rectangle here, this point right here would be hidden back behind the object that's in front of it. So that would all be dashed lines also if we hadn't already done them in our ink. So let's try this one. All right, now this one's a little bit different because our formula is our height is 3/4 of the width. So if this is our width, I can estimate this is half, this is 1/4, and this is 2/4. And I can just estimate that. That's close enough. So now when I draw my vertical, I don't want an equal width. I want 3/4 of that width. So I only go up 1, 2, 3/4. And now I'm going to draw my front face, my horizontal for my top, and then my right side. So that's my front face. From my front face, I go from each corner back to the vanishing point and back to the vanishing point on the base and the footprint, going back to the vanishing point, and once again from the bottom right back to the vanishing point. Coming from the back of our cube, of our footprint here, we can draw straight up, then over, and then straight down should align us with our cube. Now we're off just a hair, but that's okay. We can adjust that as we're drawing in our freehand. So here is my visual surfaces. I can see the top. Because it's to the right of the vanishing point, I can see the left side of our three-dimensional object. And then once again, everything else is a hidden line. And our inside corner here. Alrighty, let's try this one that's straight up. This one is, the height is 1/2 of the width. 1/2 of the width. So I can either guesstimate that at 1/2 here, or I can take and fold my measuring device to the 1/2 point, which is right there, which is just about where I guessed it. So again, this particular footprint, we're seeing the bottom of it because our vanishing point and horizon line, or our eye level, is under that base. So now I take the longest face, so this one is longer than this one, and I measure up 1/2. Then I draw a vertical from the front face, a horizontal to bring me over to the other side, and then another vertical. Then each of my corners of the front face go back to the vanishing point and back to the vanishing point. From the bottom, back to the vanishing point, and once again, back to the vanishing point. From the rear of my object, I'm going to draw straight up from the footprint, and once again, straight up from the footprint, and those should match as a horizontal line. So in this case, this is like our top right cube, which means I can see the bottom, I can see the left side, and I can see the front face. Everything else is a hidden line. So I can dash that over, and dash that back, and dash the back corner. All right, our last cube, or object, if you will, is, I'm going to use a clean side. Our formula is our height is equal to 5 widths. So I can tell that this face, and I can measure it if I want, just to make sure. See how much longer that is than the back? So the longer one is always my front face. So I'm going to take that width and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. trying to measure as accurately as possible. Once again, I'm going to do a vertical line from our front face and draw it up. Horizontal line for our top, and then a vertical from the other side of the front face. I'll put it this way so I can kind of judge that I'm vertical. All right, so there is my front face. Each corner from the front face goes back to the vanishing point, back to the vanishing point. On the bottom, from the footprint, back to the vanishing point, and once again to the vanishing point. I go from the back corner and I take that up to the vanishing point line, from the footprint back corner up, and then once again from the back left, and then those should align horizontally. Connect those. So my visual object, that is the front face, top, bottom. So this object is to the left of the vanishing point, so I can see the right side of the object. And because the bottom or the footprint is below the horizon line, I can't see the bottom at all. And because our top is above our horizon line, I cannot see the top either. So that's what our object ends up being. And that's the completed exercise. Thank you.